What's up guys, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to make reggaeton. Now, a few weeks ago, I made a reggaeton beat making video, which you guys seem to really enjoy. And if you follow me on Instagram, which you definitely should, last week I previewed a new reggaeton beat, and initially I was just going to make it into a deconstructed kind of thing and show you what I did and how I made it. But because you guys liked the last one so much, I thought, why not make this into a full-blown deep dive tutorial and show you some patterns and some formulas so that you guys can recreate these kind of beats at home. Now, jumping into Studio One, the first thing you want to do is you want to set your tempo. Now, if you want to get a good reggaeton cadence, I suggest you stay between 90 to 94. You might be able to push 96, but for this scenario, I'm using 92 BPM. Now, once you have your BPM set, the next thing that I want you guys to really understand is how we count music. Now, traditionally, we count music with the downbeat. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, but in between every downbeat, there is an upbeat, and we count that with an and. So if you were to count everything together, you'd go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. This concept is really important when making reggaeton, so just keep that in mind. But okay, jumping back in Studio One, we're actually going to start out with the drums because they are arguably the most important part to a reggaeton beat, and they carry a very specific cadence. Now, for the sake of saving time, I've already loaded some drums, but okay, you want to start this off with a kick, and you want this to be a punchy kick. So the one that I chose is this one here. So from here, I'm going to open up my piano roll, and I'm going to go ahead and place this kick on every downbeat. So it's right here. I'm going to place one here, here, and then just duplicate this. And then for the sake of this, I'm just going to make this a 2-bar loop, and it should sound something like this. From here, what you want to do is you want to bring up your first snare. Now, the one that I've chosen is this one here. And I'm going to open up my piano roll. And what you want to do is, if your kick is on the downbeat, you want your snares to be on the upbeat. Now, the easiest way that I found to do this is you want to go ahead and bring up your kick, and I'm going to place a snare in between every kick. So let me go find and see where that's at. Right there. So I'm going to place a snare here and a snare here, and then just duplicate that. So we should get something like this now. And if you count it, you'd get the downbeat upbeat pattern. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but for all this to work, make sure you're on a 16th note grid. But from here, take your first snare and your third snare and slide these up 1 block. And now we get something like this. From here, we're going to move on to the hi-hats, and the one that I've chosen is this one here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to place these down. Now, hi-hats are super easy. For the most part, they always are quarter notes. And you can place these either on the downbeat or the upbeat. So let me show you what I mean. So if you want to place them on the downbeat, let me go ahead and find my hi-hat first. And we're going to place them there and literally just duplicate it on every downbeat. And then you get something like this. Personally, I prefer to put them on the upbeat because to me that adds to the bounce. So if you want to do that, highlight them all and shift them 2 blocks over. So 1, 2, and now we get this. Now, this at the core is the most basic reggaeton cadence you can have, and if you want to stay here, that's totally fine. But personally, there are 2 extra things that I do to take these beats up to the next level, so let me show you what they are. Now, the first extra thing that I do is I bring in a second kick, and this one's going to be a deeper kick, or what they call a tom kick. Now, the one that I've chosen sounds like this. So from here, I'm going to duplicate our first kick pattern, and I'm going to bring it up to the second sound. From here, go to your first kick sound and delete the first kick and the third kick. Then go back to the new kick sound and delete the second kick and the fourth kick. And now you should have something like this. So if we add in our snare and our hi-hat, this is what we get. Now, this is what most people are probably used to. We've been hearing this drum pattern for ages. Old school reggaeton, new school reggaeton. So if this is the drum cadence that you want, this is how you do it. Now, I do have to point out, I've been listening to a lot of newer reggaeton beats where producers are carrying the same consistent kick pattern throughout the entire beat, and that also sounds really good. So in the end, it all comes down to preference, whether you want something that's more simplistic and consistent, or something, I guess, more traditional. Now, what you could also do is bring in another kick and have that play consistently on every downbeat, and then layer that with what you already have. That way you get the best of both worlds. Now, the second thing that I do to kind of elevate my beats is I add an accent snare. Now, this was my first snare, and my accent snare is this one here. So let's go ahead and add that now, but before I do that, let me shorten these up real quick because we're not using this space. So to add that accent snare, all you want to do is bring up your first snare, and then the formula is really just to add that accent snare right before the third original snare. So here we see it, 1, 2, 3. We're gonna add our accent snare right here. And now we get something like this. Now in reggaeton beats, it's really popular to change your drum sounds after 4 bars, so we're gonna do that now. Now from here, we're gonna recreate that basic reggaeton pattern with some new sounds. So my new sounds right now are going to be this kick and this snare. Now those sounds for me are going to be down here, and to make it easy, I'm just gonna copy the MIDI pattern from before, and I'm gonna place it down here. And let's make sure all the sounds are actually in the right place. So, perfect. And then the kick. And we have to add the first and the third. Perfect. So now if we play those together, this is what we get. Now the next thing you want to do here is add some sort of hi-hat or hi-hat element. Now in this specific scenario, I opted in for a perk and it sounds like this. And then from here, you could again leave it on the downbeat, leave it on the upbeat, or create your own sort of pattern. So let's go ahead and do that now. So to keep this interesting, I'm going to make my own pattern for this. So I'm going to bring this up, and let's bring up the kick and the snare again. And this time, let's see, I'm going to add them here. So 1, 2, 3. And let's go ahead and duplicate this for the remainder of this portion. And now it sounds something like this. Again, how you make this is totally subjective. Just get creative and do something that works best for you. But okay, once we have that, I'm gonna go ahead and bring this over to the second half. Now the last thing you can do here is add some sort of crash. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring this up, and I'm gonna add one here, and then at the beginning of the next drum section, so right here. And now we get this. Now, of course, from here, I encourage you to add more sounds, maybe more perks or maybe some toms. Just make this your own and get creative. Now, once your drums are done, the next most iconic thing in a reggaeton beat is a melody played in staccato notes that usually carries a 1, 6, 3, 7 pattern. So let me show you what I mean. Now, for this sound, typically you would use something like a pluck or maybe a guitar or a synth. In this scenario, I have a synth pulled up, and it would sound something like this. Now to show you how to create this melody, I'm going to be using Scaler. I've talked about it before. It's my #1 recommend to all producers, and if you're not convinced to pick it up after this video, then I don't know what to tell you. So let's go ahead and open up Scaler, and the first thing you want to do is you want to pick a scale. Now typically I found that this works best with minor scales, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter and just select the minor scales only. From here, just select the scale that you like. I'm just going to pick one at random. Let's do E minor. Now the cool thing about Scaler is that not only does it tell you what notes are in that scale, but also what chords are in that scale. So if you take a look, the first one's E minor, F sharp diminished, G major, A minor, B minor, C minor, and D major. So to create the melody that we want, we're gonna go ahead and bring in the first chord, the 6th chord, the 3rd chord, and the 7th chord. After you have them down here, go to your 2nd chord and bring it down to inversion. So you see inversion here, 1, 2. Go to your 3rd chord, bring it down 1 inversion. And go to your last chord and bring it down 1 octave. So now you get this. Now to show you that this formula works with every minor scale, I'm gonna go ahead and clear this up and bring in another one. Let's do A minor. So I'm gonna bring in the 1st, the 6th, the 3rd, and then the 7th. And then go to the 2nd chord, 2 inversions down, 3rd chord, 1 inversion down, last chord, 1 octave down. And now we get. So from here, just go ahead and drag the MIDI over to whatever sound you want. I'm gonna be using that same plucked synth from earlier. Now, if we open this up, you'll notice that this is not in the structure that we wanted. So the first thing you wanna do is select all the notes and bring this down to about right there in a 16th note grid. That's about like 2 blocks. Now from here, you wanna go ahead and just duplicate this to every downbeat. So I'm gonna select them all and I'm gonna copy to 2, 3, and 4. Now, if we were to play this right now, this is what that would sound like. Now, right now, all of these notes are on the downbeat, and we want them on the upbeat. So just go ahead and select them all, and you're gonna drag this over 2 blocks. So 1, 2, and now we get this. Now, once you guys start to get a little bit more comfortable with this progression, you can start to add some bass notes to the downbeat to make it a little bit more interesting, and it would sound something like this. But anyway, once you play this back with the rest of the drums, you get this. The last core element to a reggaeton beat is going to be the bass, and now that we actually have the melody to base ourselves off of, it's going to be a little bit easier to add it. So the easiest way that I found to do this is to take your progression from that pluck and copy the MIDI down to a bass once you've picked out a sound. From here, go ahead and open up your piano roll, and we're going to be taking some notes from each of these chords. So for the first one, we're going to take the bottommost note. So in that case, it's going to be an A. I'm going to delete everything from the top. For the second 4 beats, I'm going to be taking the topmost note. So in this case, it's an F. I'm going to delete everything at the bottom. For the next 4 beats, I'm going to take the middle note. So that would be a C. So delete everything from the top, everything from the bottom. And for the last 4 beats, I'm going to take the bottommost note again. In this case, it would be a G. So delete everything from the top. Next, we're going to select everything and shift it down to the downbeat. So 1, 2, and then delete every other note. So 1 here, delete these, so on and so forth. There we go. Following that, select everything and elongate every note till the end of that beat. So right there. Finally, just bring this down to an octave that you're comfortable with, because right now it's way too high. So I'm gonna bring this down 2 octaves. So by itself, it should sound like this. And once you add that synth pluck, we get this. Now that was just one formula for the bass, but that's not the only one. As long as you're in the scale, play around with other notes and see if something sounds better to you. So now that we have everything here, let's go ahead and play the entire beat from the beginning. Now this of course was a very basic reggaeton beat. The purpose of this was to show you some patterns and formulas so that you guys can replicate these kind of beats at home. But of course, from here, I encourage you to add different layers, dress it up, get creative, and make it sound the way you want it to sound. As a matter of fact, let me show you guys the beat that I previewed on my Instagram last week. That way you get an idea of what a potentially finished reggaeton beat would sound like. So let's go ahead and take a listen. But that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Now, I will be linking Scaler down below in case you guys want to pick it up. Trust me, you won't regret it. But as always, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you're not already, but I'll see you guys on the next one.